Hello, everybody, except goodbye, David Ross. We are back on Away Games. My name is Kevin McCaffrey, and over there, it's your soon-to-be physically Indian Adam Mamawala, who's about to traverse the oceans to.
I mean, I'll still be the same amount Indian myself, but I
I
will
don't
be
think so.
physically in
I
India.
think you're more if you're there. I'm more American
Maybe that's
today
true.
than when I'm in
Yeah,
Europe, I would say. I'm
yeah,
not in Europe a lot, but you know.
yeah. Well, the bottom line, and the most important thing is that moving forward, as far as this podcast is concerned,
Yeah.
Kevin is our guy. There's nobody who we'd even consider replacing him with.
Man.
He's the only person that we would even think of for the job. And tune in next time for my new co-host.
It is that's a very funny lead-in today.
Yeah,
It's even more funny based on recent conversations we've had over text. It's just
yeah.
for sure we're giving Kevin's got the vote of confidence. We're giving votes of confidence to both of us actually right now, and
Yeah.
so we are so happy and planning to move forward. Yeah, that's funny. Remember, it's probably only 2 or 3 podcasts ago when we were like, well, obviously they're not firing David Ross. They
Right.
explicitly said so. you know.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of a good place to start. Obviously, anyone who would be listening to this is well aware of the fact that Craig Counsell has been signed as the new manager of the Cubs, 40 million over 5 years, which makes him the highest paid manager in baseball.
History.
Baseball history, yeah. Yeah. And I saw an interesting stat that over the course of his playing career, he made 22 million, which both speaks to like how inflated contracts are now and also how big this contract is. But that's shocking because he was in the league for a good amount of years.
Yeah.
And he was a pretty good player.
He was a starter, you know. He
Yeah,
was a starter many years, and one Game 7 World Series hero is replacing another here a little bit too, which is kind of bizarre, right?
right,
Because as
right.
David Ross, who as we all know homered and caught a few innings in that Game 7, Craig Counsell walked off a
Hmm.
World Series in Game 7 in 1997. So
Yeah,
he was a good enough player to be a starter for a good number of teams
hmm,
throughout his career. So that is surprising. But he's
yeah,
broken the record that was previously set by Joe Torre a long time ago in the early 2000s.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
and it's a move that I mean we had planned to have today be our like let's kind of look back on what we got right, what we got wrong over the 2023 season. Let's look ahead to the off season. And because of this signing and because of a couple other options being picked up, the purpose and kind of tone of today's episode has shifted dramatically because I genuinely can't remember a more shocking Cubs development. I
yeah,
guess I mean the Madden thing was kind of surprising, but I think that like once that whole confluence of events happened where it was something where it was like the GM of the Rays moved to the Dodgers and then that allowed Madden to opt out if he wanted, but
yes, a
there were at
contract
least
clause. Yeah,
rumblings, yeah, of like this is a thing that could happen. I think to your point because of how confidently they said both Hoyer and Ricketts, I think like word for word said like he's our guy. It is pretty surprising, and I do feel like is it's possible that maybe they really just didn't know that they had a shot with Counsell. But if there was any part of them that felt like they might go another direction, why not just stop a bit short of saying he's our guy? Like I feel like there's a way that you could have been like, we're really happy with the improvements made this year. Obviously, it's not enough, but we're confident moving forward, and we feel good about David Ross like managing the team. Just that would have been like yeah, you're not saying 100% he's going to be there next year, but it seems like he probably will be.
right. But that would be, and this is something I tweeted at Away Games Pod, something to the effect of that got a good amount of likes and made a lot of people very mad about this. But I think what you're describing is something that is more candid and honest and straightforward than
Hmm.
anything Jed Hoyer has ever been. I think Theo was so good at that part of the job, and you can like this move. I think, as far as I know, I think Craig Counsell is likely a better manager than David
Hmm.
Ross.
Yeah.
And, some people are even mad at me using that qualifying language. Like, oh, you think? I do think. That's why I said it. You dumb internet
Well,
fuck.
as you know, I
Like,
mean, Kevin, if you want a hot take, X gonna give it to you.
X gonna give it to you. And I do think exactly what you're saying would have been just a slightly more professional and less
Humane.
yeah, humane and like less
Yeah.
shady seeming way to handle
Right.
this. And that we do know now. Sahadev Sharma reported that Jed Hoyer flew down to Florida when it became legal to speak to
Mhm.
Craig Counsell about the job,
Oh, I thought
basically.
you meant legal to fly to Florida.
Yeah, I mean, should it be even today? I'm not convinced it should be. Crack down on that. Close the borders. Build a wall. So, yeah, he went down there, and I guess it sounded like it was a heated conversation, as I'd imagine it would be if you were told you were a team's guy. And obviously, this mirrors so much the Joe Madden Renteria thing, right? But
Hmm.
I also was saying it's not exactly that, and I don't feel exactly the same way about it because it wasn't handled exact. It was very similar, but
Hmm.
also I don't think Craig Counsell is Joe Madden. I don't think he's of that quality. I think you could think Craig Counsell's the best manager now that Francona's retired in the league, and I'm up for discussion. He's won one playoff round in 9 years, but yeah, we know what
Yeah.
he's been working with.
I think I do actually think that he was the best manager available.
Oh, I think
I
I
mean,
would agree with
yeah,
that. I
yeah.
would agree with that.
So, but yeah, and to just kind of like put a bow on this because we don't want to spend the whole time talking about it. It does just we don't know exactly how that went in terms of the conversation with Ross beforehand, or if
Hmm.
like what did Sahadev say in terms of like was he informed that they were talking to council? Like was Ross privy to that, or was it like once they signed council, then we better get down to talk to David about this?
See, that much is unclear to me from the
Because when you say
reporting.
Florida, what do you who flew down to Florida?
Hoyer
Yeah.
flew down to Florida, and I think with Carter Hawkins flew to
Hmm.
Florida, which is where it seems David Ross was to talk to him.
Right.
So it is interesting because not being maybe exactly the same as the Madden Renteria situation, and as I said, I don't think Council's exactly Madden. I also think David Ross is not exactly Renteria. I think David Ross he wasn't
That's a
here
great
for
point.
1 year. He
Right.
also won a division, even though it was a weird one,
Hmm.
in the COVID year, and I think did a pretty good job managing the roster he was given
Yeah.
this year. It's not it's just not exactly the same. There should be nuance to this. um
Well, I think if we allow ourselves to be emotional about this team and about the 2016 Cubs, as I think you and I do, I guess we all know that this is a business and that people are going to be cutthroat about it. I think it's just particularly sad that the people to whom it has been most cutthroat have all been people who are like very crucial members of that team, and that's
yeah.
just like it is what it is to some degree, but it's just a little surprising. And what I was going to say before was that you are a married man. I think
Hmm.
it would be really weird if you like went out of your way to post some big thing on Instagram about like I love my wife so much, she's the only person in the world for me, we're very very happy together and we plan to be happy for at least the next year, probably many more. And then like a week later everyone found out that you were running off with someone. Like it would you my question would be like, why did you say all of that a week ago? Like
Yeah,
it
you
just
didn't have to do the post. You could have just
right,
let people keep assuming, well, you're married to the person, things are probably
right.
fine. You didn't have to go above and beyond. So in Sadov's piece, I was just reading. It seems that they Hoyer agreed on terms with Counsell, and Hoyer was the only one to speak to Counsell and to keep it quiet so no one would
Mhm.
find out. And then Hoyer immediately booked a flight to Florida to meet with Ross in Tallahassee, where to inform. So I don't think, according to this piece, I could be reading something wrong, but I don't think I am. It seems the negotiations were in secret with Counsell.
Right.
And then Ross was informed it's over, which also is different from how Theo handled the deal with Madden. They informed Renteria we will be talking to
Hmm.
Madden, and we'll let you know how it goes. So that it's a slight difference, but it's a difference, and it's a
I
difference that I
mean,
think tracks with
yeah.
Theo and Jed.
At least Jed went and told him face to face. He didn't pull a Zach Davies and just ghost a manager. So
Right, exactly. Yeah, he
yeah,
opened up the relationship for 2 days,
Right.
Metaphorically, Bone Joe Madden was like, yeah, I'm going,
Yeah.
So whatever. But I think we can say all this, and I think it's not insane to think this wasn't handled in, as you say, the most humane or professional way possible, but also that the Cubs now have, as far as we can tell, as good a manager as there is in the game, and
Yeah.
that's a good thing. So,
What
fine.
I think about it really in terms of like the message that it sends is number one, that they are planning to win now, which is what we all had hoped, especially coming off of a disappointing end to last season where
We've
they
pitched that idea a few times.
we've
Win
pitched
now.
that idea many, many times.
Yeah.
But what we've also talked about many times is the idea of like a Descalso offseason. And I think that you absolutely do not go out and get a Craig Counsell if you do not intend to seriously supplement the team that exists now. Now, does that mean that they're going to go out and, and sign Otani and Nola and trade for Juan Soto? Like, no, I don't think all those things are going to happen. But I think
Do it.
that, sure, I mean, by all means,
Right. No, I agree.
I but I think that the message that this sends to prospective free agents is like, you are now coming into a situation where there's going to be continuity. The Cubs are not hiring Craig Counsell to be there for 1 year or 2 years. Like, who knows what could happen? Maybe it all blows up and he's not there for the full 5 years. But I think
Mhm.
there's something. It's a little easier to sell someone in the same way that happened with John Lester coming when Joe Madden was there. It's easier to sell someone on the idea that like we have chosen our guy to run this ship, as it were, and you're not coming into like a lame duck campaign for David Ross, where like who knows what's going to happen with that. Your manager will be Craig Counsell for the foreseeable future, and like you should feel good about that.
Yeah. I mean, I think all that is all that rings true to me. Seems like it is now after massive instability over the course of a day or two.
Right.
Now this is pitching as much stability as you possibly can going forward. I guess we still don't know what happens with the rest of the coaching staff. Tommy Hotovy, does he follow Craig Breslow back to Boston? Does
Mm-hmm.
he, or does he stay here? I know Andy Green has been the bench coach and an experienced guy, managed the Padres, obviously, and Counsell's worked with his own handpicked bench coach who actually coached him when he was a player at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Pat Murphy, I think his name is, and he's being
Mm.
considered for the Milwaukee job, but there's a chance he comes over here too. We'll see. But in terms of the higher up position, the manager, yeah, barring something absolutely insane, Counsell's going to be the manager for the next 5 years, and that seems like a good way to start pitching your free agents going forward. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and I also think that I agree that Craig Counsell isn't Joe Madden. It hasn't proved himself to be that yet. However, I do think that they would not have done what they did if not for signing Craig Counsell. Like, I don't think they were going to let Ross go and sign Gabe Kapler. I just don't.
No,
I don't see that having
I
happened.
don't think so either. I do believe that Counsell's the only one they would have done this for. And I think getting Counsell to be your manager is a good move. And I can still, I think, feel like that was weird. That was a little shady the way that some of the details were handled. I think, and if that makes people feel horrible, feel like they gotta go do PR for Jed Hoyer because I said that, then God bless. I guess I hope he recovers one day from that opinion shared by I hate to say it, more than just me. I've seen a number of former players saying the same thing. So. Yeah, I think all those things can be true. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just. What do you think is the future for David Ross?
I don't know. I mean, as I think you posted, the funniest thing would be if he manages the Brewers now, right?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
that's kind of, I sort of want that to happen. I think David Ross, honestly, I'm not sure what he wanted his manager career to be like. He wanted to be here. Specifically, he came up, he worked with the front office a little bit after his playing days, learned from
Mhm.
that side, then got in
Did some TV. Yeah.
did some TV, some dancing. I don't know if he wants to go manage somewhere else right now, or if he wants to take like a gap year of going back to TV, which I'm sure he could do, or work in the front
Yeah.
office somewhere. I'm very curious to see how David Ross feels about how things were handled, and if he
Mhm.
does reveal any of the details, which I'm not sure he will. But I'm curious to hear that, and I would love to hear from some Cubs players how they feel about it too.
Yeah, I don't think that he'll throw anyone under the bus. I could see if it was handled poorly, I could see him saying, I wish it had been handled differently, but I don't know that he'll go after
I
anyone in
don't
that
think
way.
so
But
either.
that is a point. It's a good point. Like he's known as a player's manager, so how will the how will the players react to it? I know there was a new Compound episode yesterday, but I think it was recorded before this
Oh
news broke.
God,
But
yeah.
it would be interesting to hear what like Ian Happ has to say about this
Yeah,
sort of thing.
the only on record current Cub we've seen weigh in is Adbert Alzolai, who tweeted eyeballs, who just tweeted the eyeball emoji. Alzolai will never let you down on Twitter. He's jumping
No.
on. He's posting. He's got a poster's heart. He is. He's great.
And up north we had William Contreras just posting facepalm.
I think a triple facepalm,
Yeah.
which is funny. And Wilson Contreras, the king of the post and then delete. Old friend Wilson posted about time underneath the David Ross firing,
Wow.
and then deleted it. So I, I'd be curious to hear about that too. So, man, it is the just with such a big portion of this fan base that seemed like they were kind of out for David Ross's bald blood, and the ones that have turned on Wilson as they have, and then remember Miguel Montero getting the shit booed out of him. Like the
Right.
2016 champion Cubs catcher room is just like final destination in Cubs social media of just
Yeah.
like just hated by such huge swaths of social media now. It's bizarre, but
Yeah, being a Cubs catcher can be a little tricky. Ask Todd Hundley.
ask Michael Barrett. Sometimes your pitcher
Yeah.
punches you. It's a tough gig. Well, talking about people who have left the Cubs, also mild surprise. Although shout out Sarah Sanchez, who I think was the first one I saw predict this on record. Marcus Stroman declined his option, so that frees up 21 million for the Cubs.
Honestly, yeah, I think it was kind of a foregone conclusion that he would do that in the first half of the season, and then after his injury and after struggling in the second half, I think we had all kind of completely reversed course and assumed that he would pick up the option because he was not going into a free agency uh, period where he looked particularly good. But I think because of how thin the pitching depth is, I
Mhm.
would think that he probably is saying to himself, well, at the very least, I could get another contract that looks like what I got with the Cubs, which is like a 2 or 3 year option sort of deal for around the same, yearly amount, which
Yeah.
probably makes more financial sense for him than staying with the Cubs for that 1 year. I don't really see the Cubs as being in on him. Do
No, I
you?
think no. And the reporting I've seen is they're not getting back in that mix. So
Yeah,
I
he
think
arguably did them a favor.
yeah, if I was writing how I wanted the offseason to go, I wanted him to decline that option. Now,
Yeah,
is that good for the Cubs or not? I think it depends on how much money they actually get people to take from them at the top
right.
level of the free agent market. There's the Japanese starting pitcher Yamamoto, who's on the
Mhm.
market, who I would absolutely rather pay a little more money to have than to have Marcus Stroman. Obviously, Shohei Ohtani is out there. He's Shohei. He's not pitching this year. Theoretically, he would pitch in 2025 again. But obviously, I'd be happy to just pile the 21 million that was going to Marcus on top of whatever
Mhm.
else you were going to throw Shohei. I'd rather do that. And Blake Snell, who's going to win the NL Cy Young, is out there. Aaron Nola's out there. I mean,
Yeah.
and then also there's the people the Cubs can target and trade and then try to extend too. I am cautiously optimistic about what those $21 million can do for the Cubs that aren't
Yeah.
Marcus Stroman.
I mean, I really genuinely believe that with the move that they've made and with everything that they've said, and just the timing of it all, I do think that they get one of those three arms. I think that they get, for some reason, Nola feels like the most likely one, but Nola, Snell, or Yamamoto.
Mhm.
I think it's entirely possible they pull off a trade for either a Pete Alonso or a Juan Soto. And then
Shane
if
Bieber is the guy who's been rumored too
yeah,
on the pitching
yeah.
side of things.
But I think if you do a combination of those things, which is signing a big arm, obviously supplementing the bullpen, but like mainly signing a starting pitcher, trading for a meaningful bat, and then if you can re-sign Bellinger, then I think maybe you can make it work. Like I would love to see a third baseman who knows how to third base.
Yeah,
That would be nice.
yeah,
I don't
sure.
necessarily think Matt Chapman is the answer there.
I don't want Matt
Um,
Chapman. I don't.
yeah,
I
I'd
don't.
rather I'd rather re-sign Jamer than have Matt Chapman.
Yeah, I don't know what money Jamer's going to get. I saw I think it was Evan Altman he was posting someone else's prediction. It might have been from The Athletic, but that a projection that Jamer would be getting 4 years, 70 million, which also feels a little heavy for me too.
Yeah.
But I think the thing with Matt Chapman, a beautiful glove over there at third, amazing glove, great arm.
Yeah.
You're making the Dansby Swanson choice at third again, and
Right.
I think we have to start mixing up the talent a little bit. We need a bigger bat coming through there. I'd rather roll the dice.
We're gonna need a bigger bat.
We're gonna need a bigger bat. I would rather roll the dice on Morel if he's not used in a big trade, as has been rumored. Trying to buckle down and learn third like Nick Madrigal did last offseason. Give me some of that magical Madrigal coaching that he received last year, and I'd rather have Morel over at third than Matt Chapman.
Yeah.
I just think we need offense more there. Although, while I mentioned Swanson, a quick moment to shout out 3 Cubs Gold Glove winners. Ian Happ won again. So I was surprised to see that, but good for him.
I feel like I might be being gaslit into thinking Ian Happ is a great defender. I feel like he had a good year last year, but this year, like, maybe it's just recency bias because there were a couple pretty egregious ones in September. But
sure, yeah, the Colorado one,
the Colorado one, and then there was another one as well in Atlanta during that horrible series. What were his numbers?
Well,
did they warrant a Gold Glove?
He had 12 assists, which was the most from left field in the National League. And sometimes you get those assist numbers up just because people keep running on you. But I think he was ultimately fine among left fielders, which is a bad defensive position. You put a lot of guys who can't defend out there. So I don't think it's egregious, but yeah, I agree with you. I thought he really deserved it last year, and this year I was like, it's kind of him. Okay.
I was a little surprised when he was a finalist. And again, I don't think he had like a bad year defensively, and the assist numbers were very good. Thinking especially of that game in Milwaukee where he saved the game 2 separate times.
Through that.
But Dansby and Nico, I'm not surprised by that at all, but really cool for Nico to get that first Gold Glove. And,
so well deserved, yeah.
Yeah, incredibly well deserved. Dansby, I mean, he'll add it to the pile, but we talked about Stroman not picking up or not, staying, but then we do have news that Kyle Hendricks is going to be picked up for that additional year, and Jan Gomes as well. So
yes,
I think most Cubs fans, I think, breathed a sigh of relief knowing that Kyle would be back. And also, like, do I think the Cubs could upgrade at catcher? I do. Like, I think Jan Gomes would still be a good deal as a backup catcher at $6 million a year or whatever he's getting. So go out and I don't really know who's available, but I think it depends on what you do with the other positions. Is really where I'm at with Jan Gomes.
Yeah, I think I'm totally fine with the Gomes option picked up, pairing him with Amaya, giving Amaya, starting to move Amaya into a larger bit of that timeshare at catcher.
Right.
But yeah, I think having Gomes back there, that's a perfectly fine option to pick up. Kyle Hendricks, I remember being told, how much I don't understand about how no, you shouldn't pick up the Kyle Hendricks option. You need more bats missed, all this stuff. Oops, right. I guess I was right on that. That was a no-brainer, and also Drew Smyly did not opt out. So in terms of the options there, so he's going to be there. Could be on the fringes of, like, you never know how many starters you're going to need, right? But he obviously looked a lot better when he was working as a reliever. So those guys are back, and all that together now tells us a little bit about where the Cubs are sitting in terms of luxury tax range right now. So the Cubs are at 185.8 million. This is including some arbitration raises that are about to come, so that number's not exact. But the first barrier of the luxury tax threshold is 237 million. So, that's basically, you're looking at about $51 million of space in terms of average annual value before you hit the first tier. And then the next tiers are 257, 277, 297. I'm at the point here where don't even look at 237. Like, I think 257, the second tier, is what you should be. That's the first tier for me to worry about. There's enough high-end guys out there this year. I think you got to be willing to blow all the way past it. And 185.8 still leaves you a good amount of room under that. Like 51. The guys we mentioned, Shohei. I mean, does Shohei get 51? I don't know. I don't care. I'm fine with it. You know, if he does, honestly. But if you're getting Shohei somewhere in the 40s per year, cool. And do that, sign one of the other top pitchers, and you're still not probably cracking that second tier yet. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So I don't. It's one of those like unknowable things. Like we'll never know who would have signed with the Cubs or who the Cubs would have traded for in a world where Craig Counsell goes and signs with the Mets. Like we just won't know that.
Mhm.
But it'll be very interesting to see if this was kind of that inflection point for this next generation of hopefully competitive Cubs teams in the way that Joe Madden was.
Yeah, no, I totally. I think this is, it's one of those things where we can't know until going to the future. But thinking, I think you just said inflection point. But yeah, is this the moment where it's chips in for real? You know, and the Cubs got the manager they wanted, their top choice manager on the market. They've got that.
Yeah.
So now that's fine. Now I'm interested in seeing, are you going to get the top choice players? Because that's what I would get excited about. Because obviously the funniest, I'm not rooting for this. The funniest thing would be if the Cubs finish like exactly the same record next year, you know, would be while David Ross managing in like friggin' Boston if Alex Cora just decided to leave or something, wins 85 games. But yeah, I think it's like, all right, well now the offseason gets serious. Let's see what's the best team you can construct right now.
Yeah, and as you alluded to before, I'll be in India for 2.5 weeks from November 12th to the 28th. So I'm just sure inevitably some huge news is going to break, and I will not be around a phone for it. But that could be fun too to come back to a bunch of texts at some point. But we'll see. I hope it's an active off season early.
Yeah, India's got internet. You know, you'll figure some of that out.
It does. Yeah.
I did a show for a virtual show for people in India who everyone's job was internet was fixing the internet.
It's a big job over there.
It was great. Yeah, it was the quietest Zoom crowd I performed for, but the most that used they just kept doing the like hand clap emojis on their windows and stuff. It was a very nice. It was for Zoom shows. It was a pretty nice experience.
Oh my gosh.
Cool. Well, that's fun. You're gonna be in India. I guess I don't exactly know if we're at the plugs yet, but if you listen, I know we do have the metrics tell us we have some listeners in Oklahoma. So if you're there, I'm gonna be in Tulsa, Oklahoma, from November. I'm going to be there November 15th to the 18th doing shows. And actually, even sooner than that, I'm going to be in the space that Craig Counsell has vacated. I'll be in Wisconsin. I'll be in Waukesha, Wisconsin this Thursday, November 9th. So you can, just follow me on social media if you want to find out where the tickets are there. But those will be my next shows.
I mean, Cato Kalin must just be beside himself. Although maybe he was probably calling for Counsell's head, knowing him.
That's true. He probably hates Counsell, and we hate anyone else. I am going to check his Twitter real quick to see if I don't even know if he's still on there.
I just want to know what kind of obvious shirts we're gonna have for Craig Counsell. I feel like there's a lot you can do with it. You can go with like a general counsel sort of thing.
Yes.
I think that. Oh
man. That is a good call. It's a pretty good name for obvious shirts wise. Cato Kalin's just retweeting a bunch of things that are saying anyone checked in on Cato Kalin, that kind of stuff. And he retweeted someone who said Counsell should be managing Menards. He could have a winning playoff record there. Don't even know what that means. But anyway, that's.
But this episode is brought to you by Menards. Save big money at Menards.
Yes.
Everyone knows the jingle.
Save big money at Menards, and if you're Mark Adanazio, save big money when Craig Counsell loses you as a community. So,
I will say one thing as we head into free agency. I really hope Craig Counsell being the Cubs manager doesn't mean that we sign Josh Hader. I just don't want that.
I don't want him either. Sorry. Sorry if that makes me a woke cuck. I just don't. I also just don't want to spend that much of the. I don't want to spend that much on that position too, as besides not liking Josh.
I mean, maybe I'm dumb, but I kind of want Alzolay to be the closer next year. Is that crazy?
It's not crazy. He was really good when he was healthy, and I think he'd be good in it. I would like them to spend a little more money in the bullpen in general, but
yeah, of course,
but I think that's on a pretty hot news week, Adam. I think we covered quite a bit in not too much time.
I think we did as well, and like I said, I'll be out of the country for a bit. So Kevin, I don't know if you're going to hop on if there's any random breaking news, but I'll leave that up to you. But at some point we'll be back, probably with some sort of like more in depth look forward or look back. But that's all TBD. We're easy to find, and follow us at Away Games Pod on all the things.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for listening, everybody. Come see me in Wisconsin or Oklahoma. Go see Adam in India. Thanks, everybody.